What's up, Bulldogs? All right, so I just watched a TikTok that my wife sent me about a guy creeping out a girl in a parking lot. So the topic of this video is, should you talk to girls in public? And if a girl tells you no, or she's not interested, or she has a boyfriend, should you persist? And the answer is not straightforward. It's complicated, okay? It depends on the situation. So we got into a bit of a discussion about this because I was saying, yeah, you can't just give up right away. I've coached lots of guys. She's like, you don't know how it's like to be a girl, and you don't know how it feels, and and then I realized that we're talking about different contexts. So in this TikTok that I watched, the girl basically said that she went to a supermarket and she was coming out of her car, or she got into her car with her groceries, and this guy just like pulled into the spot right next to her, and then he got out of his car and he was like super close. He just whipped in there, and then he got out, and then he's this big like 6'4" dude, right? And she's this little girl, and then he's like, hey, I saw you. I saw you go into the grocery store, and I waited in my car for you to come out. And then when I saw you come out, I came here. And then he's like, I want to get to know you. And then he handed her a paper with his phone number and address and everything on there. And then she said, "Oh no, thanks. I'm good." And then he said, "What do you mean you're good?" Right? And then she like felt like he was intimidating her, so she's like. She's like, "Oh, I have a boyfriend." And then he's like, "Are you sure that's what you want to say?" And then, she yells louder, "I have a boyfriend so other people can hear." And then he gets, whatever, embarrassed. And then he's like, "Fine then," or whatever. And then he's like storms off and peels out in his car, right? So she's like, "This is such an intimidating thing," and blah, 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 right? And yeah, I get it. Like, that's definitely intimidating. But my wife, Nicole, she's like, "Oh, well, this is what guys do all the time," right? And I thought about this, and I was like, look, that's not true. That's not what guys do all the time. This is not what guys do all the time. Like, there's a very small percentage of guys. Most guys, first of all, this guy would have to be both unsocially calibrated and have balls, which is a rare combination. Usually, most guys, like 9% of guys, if you're watching this video, probably you haven't gone out and talked to girls, probably, right? I mean, majority of guys, again, I've been coaching guys for a long time. It's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just like 95% of guys have never just saw a girl out somewhere and just started talking to her, or maybe they've done it once or twice in their life, didn't have a good experience, and never would do it again, right? So most guys don't have balls, first of all, or the balls to do that. You can develop them, by the way, but so, don't worry about that. Or like the guys that do have the balls to do that, they usually have some social skills, and they can, they understand how to actually attract women, because no woman is ever going to respond to that kind of thing. Like, there's no way she was going to suddenly turn around and be like, "Oh, well, thanks for questioning me so much about having a boyfriend. Yeah, actually, I would like to get to know you. Now that I see that you're a dominant alpha male and you don't give up, yeah, now I'm attracted to you." No, it's never going to happen. So anyway, okay, so where I'm getting at with this is that, she was, I was basically saying, look, this doesn't happen. It just doesn't. And she's like, "No, this happens to me every time. Every time a guy goes up to me and I tell him, no, I'm not interested, he keeps on persisting and all these things." And I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. I mean, a guy should persist. And she's like, "No, he should never persist." And so what I realized was that the difference in our viewpoints was, she was talking about on the street, like in public, in a parking lot, and somewhere like that, like everyday life, going up and talking to a girl, versus I was thinking mostly in bars, nightclubs, social settings, right? And so there's a huge difference between how you should behave as a man in both of these situations. And a lot of guys are too intimidated. They see a video like this on TikTok and they're like, "Oh yeah, see, you should never approach girls, and you should just give up immediately if they're not interested." And that's the wrong idea, okay? You shouldn't be afraid to talk to women and approach women in public or in a nightclub or a bar, but you have to do it the right way, and it depends on the situation, right? So first of all, let's talk about on the street. If you're in a parking lot, first of all, you have to know where you're at, okay? You have to be context aware, all right? If you're in the back of a parking lot where there's not very many people, you should just never approach a girl at all, okay? There is no reason, especially you shouldn't stalk her and wait for her to get out. Like, all those things will be creepy, right? There's a lot of things that were big red flags there. But if you're in the situation where there's a girl by herself, there's not a lot of the people around, and it's in a public situation, but it's kind of isolated, never approach. It doesn't and never approach where it looks like you might have been waiting for a girl. Anything like that is bad. Okay, it doesn't matter how attractive you are. It doesn't matter if she's attracted to you. It's danger, stranger signals. All right, it's just stranger danger signals. It's not good at all. Okay, so never ever put her in that kind of situation. Now, let's say that you're maybe in a parking lot and there's a lot of people around. You're near the front of the park. There's a lot of cars. It's a safe place, right? It's not nighttime. Okay. Can you go up and talk to a girl? Absolutely. All right. At a mall, on the street, can you go up and talk to a girl? Absolutely. Okay. Now, if she says, I'm not interested, or no, thank you, or I have a boyfriend, in that context, leave her alone. That's it. Okay. Because why? Because she's out in public. All right. She didn't go to find guys. She's not looking to meet people. She's just carrying on her daily life. Okay. And so when you're interrupting her in that case, unless you get a really positive response, right, or she's wanting to talk to you, you should just cut it. Right. In fact, in that situation, you shouldn't even just have a different conversation. Right. If she says, I'm not interested or I don't have a boyfriend, don't keep on talking, because now you're being weird. Now you are being weird because you're interrupting someone's daily life. You understand the difference? Right. So that's always going to be weird. And it's always going to be intimidating, and it's always going to make a girl feel weird and awkward, and like she's being violated in some way. So that's never ever good. On the other hand, if you're in a bar or a nightclub or some social setting where the woman has placed herself, maybe she's not looking for guys or whatever, or male attention, but she's in a place that's a social environment, all right? In that case, many times what you're gonna find as a guy is let's say you go up to a girl in a bar, all right? And it's a crowded bar. Many times she's going to initially reject you and tell you she's not interested, or say I have a boyfriend. And that doesn't mean that you should take that at face value, but it also doesn't mean that you should persist down that path by questioning her, by saying, oh, do you really have a boyfriend? Or, things of that nature. Instead, what you should do is you should just make a joke of it, right? If she says, I have a boyfriend, then you can say, it's okay, I have a boyfriend too. And then you just drop it. You don't push, but then you just cut the thread and you talk about something else. And you say, oh, well, what is this drink that you're drinking with the flour in it? I have to know, right? Or you start some other conversation. You can still flirt with her and have a conversation with her, but you're trying to break through that barrier of resistance, because women are initially going to put that up. So you shouldn't just give up immediately in that kind of situation, all right? But in the public situation, you should. And I think that's where the confusion is. And, if you're really going to be successful with women, you have to be able to gauge the context and how is she feeling? Like, perhaps the best skill that you can develop as a man in order to be successful with women is to understand how are they likely to be feeling. If you can empathize with them and have a high degree of emotional intelligence, or social calibration is what we would call it, then you understand how she's probably feeling in this moment, right? And you can see the difference between in a parking lot by herself, where you're a big guy, you're intimidating her, she's afraid to tell you no, okay? She's afraid of what your reaction would be, versus in a very public situation like a bar or nightclub, where she's giving you resistance because she's creating a filter, because she doesn't want to be bothered by 1,500 guys that are talking to her, and she's seeing how you're going to respond to that. And maybe she's not even really interested, but you could convince her to be interested. Like you could open up the communication enough that you could flirt with her and then start to pique her interest. So you have to be able to judge the situation and know what situation is presenting itself. And the biggest thing I would say, though, guys, is don't use this to have an excuse, right? So many guys are going to watch this video, they're going to watch videos like this, and they're so afraid. They're pussies, and that's not what you should be doing, okay? You shouldn't be intimidated, afraid to talk to a woman, think that you're going to get sexual harassment if you just go and talk to a woman. You have to be calibrated. You have to think about it. There's no reason why you couldn't see a woman that you're attracted to, go up to her and pay her a compliment, or just introduce yourself or try to meet her. And if she rejects you at that point, that's fine. You cannot be very... you can't be very emotionally invested in any particular interaction. You just have to be like, that's cool, but you shouldn't be afraid, okay? Because the thing is, you know, a lot of guys that do this kind of weird shit, they make it harder for other guys, and they make it seem like all women are going to react that way. And some women do react more that way because of these stories, which is fine, but you just have to read the situation better to understand, right? It doesn't mean that you should just avoid women and not talk to women and be afraid of women. That's a really bad outcome. That's not where we are in society today. You need to step up and be a man. And what you need to understand is that you need to be able to be willing to risk the fear of rejection, okay? So yes, you are afraid to be rejected. You're afraid of her having a negative response. That's fine, okay? You have to overcome that fear. What is a rational fear, and it's not really fair, it's a justification, is to say, oh, well, she'll call the police, or I'll get arrested, or there'll be sexual harassment. That's only going to happen if you do something that is extreme, right? If you just go and talk to a woman, even if you just do that, there is no point in which you're going to be sexual harassment or any of those things. It's what you do after she responds and how you respond to that determines whether things go south or not. So remember that.